Yes.
Council, you may continue, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. DARBOE, may I remind you that you are still under oath and that you are expected to be truthful in everything you say to the Commission. Understood? Could you indicate yes or no instead of nodding?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So on this day, March 21st, you spoke to Sekan, your buddy with whom you have done a lot of things together.
Yes.
You spoke on the phone, you gave out your locations, where you were heading to, and provided information relating to the coup. Soon thereafter, your home was invaded by the junglers, and you were arrested and taken to Mile 2.
Yes.
Suddenly, the go-to guy to see the CDS is now in the cells of Mile 2. What went on in your mind as you were being pushed into your cell?
Well, in respect of Sekan, I felt betrayed, by him. Actually, because I was not expecting him to actually divulge the information that was given to him concerning my location and my whereabouts, of course. But, that's what you can expect from detractors, of course.
Just to pursue the line of argument we had before, I mean, this is being done mainly to also sensitize our people so that we all have a better understanding or better appreciation of the rule of law and our civic duties as a people. Second, had a responsibility to report that a coup was in the making, didn't he?
Well, if he was not part of the coup.
The law is not whether if he was part of it or not. The law is, and correct me if I'm wrong, the law is that if you have information that a coup was going to take place or was being planned, as a soldier you had an obligation to report it, didn't you?
Yes, in the normal circumstances, yes.
And in fact, there is no exception in that rule, correct?
Well, perhaps I'm not very sure about the particular rule, but
you have participated in several court-martials.
Yes.
And the most common charge for court-martials in Gambia is being aware of a mutiny and you fail to report to your superior officer, or being aware of a treasonable offense like a coup and you fail to report to a superior officer. Isn't that the case?
That's true.
So, and that rule, obviously you would be familiar with it. You've worked on it on several occasions. That rule does not cater for an exception like under normal circumstances or under abnormal circumstances. The rule is absolute. You have information that a coup is going to take place, you have an obligation to report it. Is that right?
Well, if Second has that perception, then it's right. At that time,
in fact, Sekan was acting in accordance with the laws of the country at that time, correct?
Yeah, where they were rule of law, of course.
In fact, his conduct is what is expected of an officer of the Gambia Armed Forces, isn't it?
At that time?
At any time. Because that is the only way we can avoid coup d'etats happening in our society.
Yeah, but, we've only, talk about this issue. What I've already mentioned is that, people have, moral obligation, to actually, change a government that is not, in the interest of the Gambian people. No, I'm coming.
We have finished that argument.
Okay.
Now we are talking about a legal duty to report, because now you are equating a person who exercised a legal duty to report, you're equating that person to a traitor. So I just want us to appreciate the fact that it is an obligation of soldiers or officers to report information they have about planned coups. What is your take on that?
Well, if yeah, legally, yes, they are, that's their legal mandate to report, of course.
Good. And in fact, that notion, that behavior is to be promoted in the armed forces if we are to avoid falling into the spiral of coup d'etats upon coup d'etats upon coup d'etats. So the only way one of the ways to avoid coup d'etats is to, in fact, make it an obligation upon soldiers to be reporting information they have about planned coups. Do you agree?
Well, yes, I agree.
Good. So you are now taken to mile 2. You feel betrayed by your friend who acted lawfully. What happened after that?
Yeah, then I was taken to a cell, and a single cell, a very small cell. And then the cell was having just one concrete slab and also a small table, small concrete table. There were no mattresses, there were no mosquito nets. So I was only given a 1.5 liter of water containers, with some water, and I was told that that was the container that I should be keeping in the cell. Then, as soon as I was trying to settle down in that cell, the soldiers came for me. They opened the door, and then I was taken out, handcuffed behind my back, and I was taken to the NIA headquarters. Which
soldiers came for you?
Yeah, these soldiers, they are junglers. I could recognize a few of them, not all of them, but few of them.
Tell us the names.
You have Michael Sankoria was one of them. You have Modu Jaju was also one of them. And then you have yes.
Thank you. Do you know whether he belonged to some, Michael Sankoria you said, do you know whether he belonged to any particular unit within the army?
Yes, he's also part of the junglers.
You also mentioned Momodu Jajo.
Yes.
Is he known by any other name?
Rambo. They call him Rambo.
Rambo. Did he belong to the junglers as well?
Yes.
And who else?
Yes, and others, a few others. I think Noah Baji was also there, and a few others anyway. About 4 of them came.
How did you come to know Rambo, Momodu Jaju?
He was serving the armed forces. You know, I know him, you know, as a member of the Gambia Armed Forces.
You knew him well, did you?
I knew him, yes, I knew him.
All right. Okay, and tell us about your ride on that day to whatever destination you were going to. Tell us.
Okay, so they escorted me to the admin office. After the formalities, I was told to enter the vehicle. There were 2 vehicles parked there. So I entered one of them, and then there was a leading vehicle, and then followed by another vehicle. And I was again sandwiched by these 2, Michael Sankoria and another Modu Jaju, sandwiched me in the vehicle. So I was being taken to the, I don't know where I was taken, but you know, they headed towards Banjul. And then along the way, this Michael Sankoria, I think, you know, had a dagger, you know, like this commando knife, we call it, and he placed it on my throat, and he said to me, I could just kill you here and just dump you here. So, but I didn't say anything. So the dagger remained on my throat as we drove, you know, the vehicle. When we were about to reach
how did you feel about this?
Yeah, it was a difficult moment, but you know, I just remained calm. You know, because I always zero my mind about anything that might have happened to me. So I didn't care much about what might have happened to me because, you know, I was already a captive. So, you know, so when we were about to reach.
Proceed.
When we were about to reach mile 2, he removed the dagger from my throat.
You were taken from mile 2?
Yes.
Where were you being taken to?
To NIA headquarters.
Proceed, please.
So when we arrived at the NIA headquarters, I met, this Haidara met us. And then he told the one Haidara, I cannot remember, Mohammed something, I don't know, whether Mohammed Haidara, something like that, but yes.
You told us that a dagger was placed on your throat.
Yes.
By Michael Sankoria.
Yes.
As you drive away towards Banjul, and
yes.
he told you that he could kill you here and dump you.
Yes.
Did they do anything else to you during this period?
No, nothing.
Were you free or were you restrained?
I was restrained, of course. I was sandwiched by these 2 individuals. So,
apart from being sandwiched, were you restrained in any
I was
other
handcuffed.
Way? You were handcuffed?
Yes.
Okay, so you went all the way to Banjul.
Yes.
What time did you arrive at NIA headquarters?
That would be around, it would be around 12 midnight.
So this operation was conducted at midnight?
Yes.
And when you arrived at the NIA, were you being expected?
Yes, of course.
How do you know that?
Yeah, we were welcome, you know, we were received by one Mr. Haidara, I think Mohammed Haidara was the one who received us, and then he told those who were escorting me to take me to the conference room.
Okay.
So
the conference room.
Yes.
Can you tell us where it is located in the NIA premises, as it then was?
It is located in the first floor of the building. When you enter the, you know, if you go inside, it's, you know, after the first reception you entered, you know, you go. There is another small reception before you, you know. There's another reception also, and then, you know, there, you know, you have a staircase, and then you climb the staircase, and then you go to the conference hall.
Is it a building that you would see as you enter in front of you, or is a building to the side, to the flanks?
I think, you know, when you enter, you know, you see the building, you know, in front of you.
In front of you?
Yes.
All right. So you access the conference room by taking a flight of stairs?
Yes, stairs, yes.
So can you tell us what you saw when you arrived there and what happened?
Yeah, when I arrived there, there were very few people there, and then later, people started coming to take their seats.
Can you describe to us the setting of the conference room, how the seating arrangement was, and all that?
Yes, the conference hall. You have the chairs, all around the conference hall, and there is another chair on the edge of the conference hall. There's another one at the edge of the conference hall. So I was told to sit on the chair that is just at the door, next, very close to the door. That was where I was made to sit. And then...
how far did you sit away from the table, from the main table?
It was very close to the table. The chair was very close to the table.
How many other people, non-detainees, were in the room at the time?
Well, when I entered the room, I found that there were few people. But later, as I said before, the people started coming to take their seats. Those are the panel of investigators. They come to actually take their seats, and then you have also some armed escorts at the corners of the conference hall. They take their positions with weapons, and then I was made to sit in the chair.
Do you know why you were taken there? Do you know the purpose, the reason why you were taken to that hall?
Well, at that point, no, I don't know. I was just, taken from mile 2 to that place. But, it could have been something that is connected with the coup. That was connected with the coup plot.
But until you sat on that chair, you did not know what you were being taken there for?
No, I didn't know.
So explain to us what happened after that.
So when I sat on that chair, I was still in the handcuff. So they started asking me questions. I told them I need a lawyer before I said anything.
First of all, let's establish who was present and how many people were present.
There were many. I think about 20 people were in the room at that time. And then the most prominent among them were Lantom Bontamba, this Haidara from the NIA.
Lantom Bontamba, who was he at the time?
He was the deputy CDS at that time.
Where was the CDS on that day?
The CDS was not, I didn't know where he was. The CDS was in Dulcham, and I didn't know where he was at that time.
Was Lang Tombong at that stage acting as acting CDS? Did he have any soldier serving above him at the time?
No, they were known. He was after the CDS, he was next.
And the CDS, of course, was involved in the coup attempt.
Exactly.
So therefore, at that stage, he was no longer serving as CDS.
Yes.
So the position, the mantle, fell to Lang Tombong Tamba,
exactly.
Right? And at that stage, he was the de facto head of the army.
Exactly.
So he was sitting there.
Yes.
In the investigative panel.
Exactly.
Who else?
You have the former Inspector General of Police, Usman Sonko, was also there.
Proceed.
And then you have Alaji Martin, was there too.
Alaji Martin, at this stage, what was his rank?
He was a lieutenant.
In which unit of the army did he belong to?
He was serving at the State Guard Battalion.
Who else?
Tumbul Tamba.
Tumbul Tamba, to which unit did he belong?
Also at the State Guard, and also, part of the junglers.
Part of the junglers?
Yes.
Okay. And who else?
And then Mamoud Lamin Sise was also, he belongs to the serious crime unit of the police force. And also Boto Keta. You have others, Lamin Cham, also from the serious crime unit, and then a couple of other junior officers, from different services, the police and the military.
And earlier on, you mentioned a Mr. Haidara.
Yes.
Was he present?
He was present.
So you said this was an investigative panel.
Exactly.
From your observation, who was the leader of the panel or the chairman of the panel?
I wouldn't be sure who was the leader of the panel, but I could say that no, these three people, Lanto Montamba, Usman Sonko, and Hydra, were the ones who were leading the investigation, of course. But I wouldn't be sure who actually was the leader among them. What I realized was that most of the questions were asked by Hydra, but of course in consultation with Lanto Montamba and also Usman Sonko.
At this stage, who was the head of the NIA?
The head of NIA, I think, was Deba Marina, who was also, was arrested. And then I think Hydra must have been the one, acting. I'm not sure, but that's what I thought at that time.
So, can you tell us how the investigation was being conducted and the things that happened there? But before that, you tell us what happened to the escorts, those who brought you to the NIA. Where were they at this time?
They were also inside the room there.
And what happened to their arms?
They were having the arms with them.
So you mean you had armed men standing there?
Yes.
And exactly where were they standing?
They are standing at the corners, at the around the room. They were standing behind at the against the wall of the conference hall. They have their weapons with them.
Was that environment free?
No,
for
the environment
a person
was
like you.
The environment
was being investigated.
The environment was intimidating.
So how about Michael Sang Korea and Momodu Jaju, Nuha Baji, and others? Where were they?
Yeah, they were there, and then after some time, they were asked to go and collect some other people, detainees. So they left, but there are other elements, left, in the hall. Those were there for purposely to secure the,
just point of clarification, you had mentioned Alaji Martin.
Yes.
Where was he at this moment?
He was there. He was in the room.
So when you arrived and they started asking you questions, you told the commission that you said you wanted a lawyer.
Yes.
Can you tell us how they received that? How did they react to that?
Yes. So when I told them that I needed a lawyer before I could say anything, and then they were not very happy with that statement. I told them that it's my constitutional right also to have a lawyer, before I can make any statement here. But they then Alaji Martin just said, you think we are joking here? So...
did he say that in a friendly manner?
No. And then,
in which manner did he say that?
He said it very sternly, that, they were not joking at that place. So he walked around the table. He walked around the table and then, came behind me. And then, he just gave me a back slap. And then...
okay. Take it easy, slowly. We want to understand what he did to you.
Yes.
Maybe you should just demonstrate to us, just show us how it happened. Show us the action as you remember it.
No, actually, no, I cannot be able to show, because I don't want to replay, it's very traumatizing for me to replay. But what I'm saying... We understand.
Yes. You are excused from doing that. We don't want to have you re-traumatized.
Exactly.
So tell us what he did.
Yes, so, he came just behind me and then he gave me a back slap. I think you all understand what a back slap is. So...
you mean a slap?
He slapped me from behind.
From behind?
He came from behind me and then slapped me. Okay, so after that, he held the collar of my shirt and then he pulled it. It has buttons. So the buttons peel off. And they sat, he pressed it to my waist level so that, I remain, half naked.
He assaulted you?
Yes.
He slapped you.
Yes.
How did you feel?
How did I?
How did you feel when he did that?
Yeah, I feel some pain, but also, I feel some bitterness also. I felt some bitterness also, and helplessness.
And what happened after that? Before that, did any member of the panel say anything?
Nobody said anything. No one said anything.
Langton Tamba, he was your deputy CDS at the
Yes.
time. He was the acting CDS at the time.
Yes.
He was the de facto leader of the army at the time.
Yes.
He was responsible for you as a soldier, wasn't he?
Yes.
Did he say anything?
Yes. As of that time, I was not charged of any crime, so I was not charged. So I was still, a member of the armed forces.
Did he say anything?
No, he didn't say anything.
The IGP, did he say anything?
No.
Nobody said a word?
No one said a word.
From your own assessment, did it appear to you that they endorsed or accepted or tolerated the conduct of Alhaji Martin?
Certainly.
How did you feel? How did you feel realizing that?
Yeah, so I feel bad about it. I feel, I said I felt, so much helplessness, and bitterness also, because I was unarmed. I couldn't defend myself. I couldn't do anything. So I was at their disposal. So whatever they did to me, I couldn't do anything.
And what happened after that?
So what happened after that? The same Alhaji Martin went and brought second statement and put it before me. And then, when I read the statement, I realized, the incrimination of second in the, he actually incriminated me in the coup. And then he turned around and said, I told him, before he said anything, I told him what second said here is not true. And he said to me, second will never lie against you. So that was his belief, because I believe, he believed that second was my closest, colleague and also my batchmate. So whatever he said against me, would only be the truth. So that was his belief. So later, I was asked to, Bodokeda was asked to take my statement. And Alhaji Martin told me, sarcastically, he told me, after you have, spoken, you have, made a statement, then, we will allow you to have a lawyer. So Bodokeda escorted me to a small room, just at the entrance of the conference hall. And then he told me when we entered the conference hall, with some, two armed escort. He told me, look, you have to, give a statement because, just to be free from the torture and also so that you can rest. So I decided to make a statement, actually, taking account of what Second said, about me in his statement, that I was the one who was supposed to write I was the one who was supposed to read make the announcement of the coup. I was to make the speech, and then he said also that I knew everything about the coup, things like that. So I also mentioned the same thing, in my statement.
Why did you have to do that?
Yeah, because I had no other choice. I was already, incriminated by Second, who was also part of the coup. He knew everything about the coup. So if he said things like that, I couldn't be able to free myself from that. So I had to agree to make the statement.
Did you make that statement freely and voluntarily, out of your own free will?
No, that statement, couldn't have been, taken, voluntarily, because I demanded for a lawyer to be present before I could take a statement, which they refused. So, but, at the end of the day, when I was confronted with second statement, I could not just, deny, because it was going to be full-time for me to deny. Second, we knew about it, and then, he was even giving some responsibilities, and then he turned around and then, revealed the coup, and then I was arrested. So obviously, I was to accept whatever, has to come. So in that room, I was there, with Bodoketa. So I gave the statement, and Bodoketa took the statement to the panel, but they were not happy with what I wrote in the statement. And then they told Bodoketa that no, they gave him some other points that they want me to write in the statement. So Bodoketa came and explained.
And can you tell us what those points were, if you can recall?
Yeah, some of those points were, they wanted to know how, who are the people, who normally used to come to, not the, not this, they said not the senior officers, but those people, who used to come to visit the, Dulcham, and then also they wanted to know whether we had, they wanted me to say the names of those people, including some other security forces, members of the other security forces. But I told Bodoketa, no, I cannot be able to do that. So they said, okay. Then they want me to confirm if people have been coming to visit Ndulcham, in the office, and also, so those are the issues that they wanted me to put in the statement.
And did you comply?
Yes, I complied. I have to rewrite the statement. And then I put some of the points. That they, but I did not mention any particular name. Obviously, the names I mentioned were also the same names that were mentioned by Sekan. I saw the people, who were actually named to be part of the coup.
But before you made this statement, let's take you back to the interrogation room. Were you threatened in any way? Were you threatened in any way?
Of course.
Can you tell us about that?
Yes. Tumbul Tamba, who was just one of the junglers, he was also in the conference hall. He told me that if you don't talk, we will do to you what we did to your colleagues in 11 November. So that was a threat. That was like, he was referring to my colleagues, my batchmates who were extrajudicially killed during the 11 November, the aftermath of the 11 November, Buba Jame and Momo Lamin Dabo. Those were my batchmates. We trained together, we went to Turkey together, we came together, and then they were posted to Indum, whilst I was posted to Farafenye. So they were allegedly involved in that 11 November coup, and then eventually they were, executed. So he was referring to those people, and then he was telling me that no, if I didn't talk, I would just be like those people. So that was a threat to my life.
Was this before Martin gave you the statement of Sekan, or was it after?
No, this was before Martin gave me the statement of Sekan.
So you received this threat from Tumbul Tamba?
Tumbul Tamba, yes.
After you received, well, when he told you that if you don't talk, we would do to you what we did to your colleagues of November 11, what did you think at that time that he was saying they were going to do to you?
Yeah, that was, what I thought at that time was that because those people were extrajudicially killed. They were not tried, they were not taken to court. So obviously, the same thing could have happened to me.
What did you understand him to be telling you at the time?
That means that I have to comply to what to say, to talk, or to write a statement.
Or else, what would happen?
Or else, what happened to those people? The 11 November, my colleagues would happen to me.
Which is?
To be killed.
So in effect, you saying Tumbul Tamba was telling you, if you don't talk, you will be killed.
Of course. That was that was what he was implying.
Yes. But when he said that, did any of the members of the panel say anything?
Nothing, absolutely.
In your view, would you say that the members of the panel acquiesced or accepted or tolerated the threat that was meted out on you?
Yes, by implication, because their silence means consent.
It was not always, but on this particular occasion, I would leave it at that. I think we can accept that. At what stage did Martin give you the statement of Sekan?
Yes, he gave me the statement of Sekan after, because statement was not at that level. At that, he has to go and collect the statement from somewhere, and then he brought the statement to that place. So it was after.
Was it soon after the threat by Tumbul Tamba?
Yes.
Soon after.
Yes. After the threat of Tumbul Tamba, then he, Martin, went out, and he came with second statement.
Can you demonstrate to us how the statement was given to you and the words you remember you remember he used?
Oh, he just came and said look at second statement. So he placed the statement before me. So I also browsed through the statement and I saw what was written there. So that was it.
And what did you take that to mean?
Yeah, they wanted
they wanted
for me to see how Sekan incriminated me in his statement, and the level of that means I couldn't be able to deny what Sekan said, that I have to accept what he said. That was why they brought this statement, and just for me to see how the statement was incriminating.
How long did your interrogation last?
It lasted because it started at 12 o'clock up to 6 o'clock in the morning before I made a statement. Because all along I refused to talk. I was very adamant. I didn't want to talk. I was requesting for a lawyer. So when they asked me questions, I refused to say anything. So this was on, but they were also occupied with and trying to bring other suspects also, trying to go and arresting other suspects, to bring them to either mile 2. So it was during that period that it took some time before they could also concentrate fully on me, because I told them that I'm not going to say anything without having a lawyer. This was when Martin got up and said, "No, look, we are not joking here." And then he walked around the table, and then he did what he did, what I just explained here.
He slapped you.
Exactly.
From behind. So, and he also ripped off your clothes.
Exactly.
And after that, you received a threat from Tumbul Tamba.
Yes.
And thereafter,
because up to that moment, I didn't talk. I didn't say anything.
So you were taken later to write a statement. You wrote what you wrote and you sent it to them, and they asked for additional information.
Yes.
How did you respond to that?
Yes, I had to accept some of the informations that they wanted me to put in the statement, but I rejected some of them. So I have to write the statement according on the instruction of Boroketa. So I wrote the statement, and then I gave, Boroketa took the statement again to them, and then this time around they accepted the statement.
So this was a confessionary statement?
Well,
you made a confession in the statement?
Pardon?
Did you confess in this statement?
Yes, I had to confess based on what Sekan said, yeah, of course.
This confession, was it in the presence of some independent witness?
No, there was no independent witness.
Did you ask for one?
No, I didn't ask.
Did they offer one?
No, they didn't offer one.
So they were happy to take the statement
exactly.
there and then?
Exactly.
At what time?
This was at 6 o'clock in the morning.
So your interrogation started at midnight until 6 a.m. You completed a statement.
Exactly, sir.
And what happened after that?
Yeah, after I have already given my statement, then I was escorted to the prison. I was there. By this time, I was so tired and very hungry because I last ate anything the morning of the 20th when I was coming to on the 21st when I was coming to the office. So I didn't eat anything. I didn't have lunch. I didn't have dinner. And then I was taken for interrogation, and then I didn't eat the whole night until the next morning. So when I was taken to mile 2, they served me this porridge, this couscous porridge, without sugar. But because of the hunger, I had no choice but to, I just devoured that food just to sustain myself. And then I remained in the cell, until the next day.
And what happened the next day?
The next day, I didn't go anywhere. I remained in the cell. But on the 23rd, I was removed from the cell to the NIA headquarters again. And this time around, they were requesting from me.
This time around, what time of the day were you removed from your cell and taken to the NIA?
It was in the morning.
And then?
Yes, so I was taken to the NIA headquarters. They asked me about the statement. And then I told them that no, I didn't have a statement.
Which
then,
statement?
Sorry, the speech, what they later called the coup plotter speech, the speech of the coup plotters. So they were asking for that, and I told them no, I didn't have it. So I remained there,
Did any speech exist at this time?
No, there was no speech. I didn't write any speech. Obviously, I didn't write any speech. There was no speech at all.
And?
Yeah, so they kept me there, and then they told some people to go to my house to bring my bags, my briefcases and my bags. So they wanted to check inside whether there could be any speech in those briefcases. So they went whilst I waited in the conference at the NIA in the conference hall there. I waited for them. They went and they came. They brought all my bags. They went to my in-laws' house. In Lameng, they took the bag. That I used to go with. To office. They also went to my residence at near Fajara Barracks. They also collected my briefcase, all the briefcases that I had there, and then they brought them. So, I think they searched all those bags and the briefcases, but they couldn't see anything. And they decided to keep those briefcases and the bags. They are still, up till today, I didn't see them. Up till today, I haven't seen those briefcases and those bags up till now.
The soldiers that came for you, how were they dressed?
At what point? At what point?
When you were being taken from mile 2 to the NIA, how were they dressed?
Yeah, so some of them, they dress in black uniform. I think, this black.
Was that a normal uniform of the Gambia Armed Forces?
No, it was not a normal uniform.
Which unit would wear that uniform during those days?
The junglers, and they call them. That's why they call them black.
So you were taken to this place at this time, and they started asking you about a speech that you were supposed to have written.
Exactly.
Okay. And what happened? They went to your house, brought your bags, and searched them. There was nothing.
There was nothing. Then later, they asked Malafikor and Mfali Jabong to escort me to my office at the Armed Forces headquarters. So Mfali Jabong and Malafikor plus other escorts, escorted me to to that place, to the headquarters there, and to my office. And when we arrived at my office, I found out that my office was ransacked. Papers were scattered everywhere. The filing cabinets were, were removed, forcefully removed. The files were spread all over, in the office. So we stood there, and then, they told me, look, if you have a speech here, it's better you take the speech so that you can be free. You can just be free from torture. I told them, look, I did not have any speech. I couldn't be able to produce something that I did not write. So they themselves started to check in some ruffle some files here and there to see whether they could be able to discover anything there. So when it was very clear to them that they couldn't be able to recover any speech from here. They escorted me back to the NIA, and then they gave the information.
At this stage, who was present at the panel?
Who was
present?
Yeah, at this time, Lanto Montama was there. Usman Sonko was there. Haidara was there. All my appearances, these people are always there. Throughout.
How about Alaji Martin? Was he there?
Alaji Martin was also there. Timur Tamba was there, and Mohamed Lamin. Those I mentioned, they were all there, plus the Guinean officers also. They were all there. So when I came, when we came to, we returned to the NIA conference room. These people who escorted me reported to them that we couldn't find any speech. And that is the time again, Alaji Martin said, look, you think we are joking here? Again, that was his, he frequently used that word. And then he went and brought about 3 sheets of paper, this blank sheet of paper. He put them on the table before me. Then I was handcuffed. So Haidara told him, okay, remove the handcuff and let him write something. Let him write something. So he told me, like Martin went and brought a pen and then, placed it before me also. And then he told me, you have to write a speech. So it was in the conference hall that I wrote that speech.
Help us to understand. This is a speech that is supposedly existing somewhere, and now you're being asked to write it, as if it is that speech which does not in fact exist.
Exactly. There was no speech, obviously. I didn't write any speech. So, but I was made to write a speech in the conference hall. Because in their mind, based on what Sekan told them, was that I was the one to make an announcement. So obviously they believed that there must have been a speech. And, so they said I must produce that speech. So, and I told them that I didn't write any speech. But they all constantly, pressing me to produce the speech. And when it was very clear to them that there was no speech, they forced me to write the speech in the conference hall.
And how was that to be presented, that speech you wrote?
Yes, later when I wrote the speech, I wrote just one page, and I put the pen down, and I think Usman Sonko told me, why are you not writing? I said, no, I cannot write anything more. I couldn't be able to write anything more. So Alaji Martin came and took that what I wrote, and then he went out with it. I don't know where he was taking that particular speech, that I wrote. He left the conference hall. He went, after about 30 minutes, he returned with the same speech, and he spoke with Lanto Montamba, and then he came to me and said, "No, you have to sign." So at the bottom of the speak, of the paper, there's a space, and I wrote, I signed that space, and then I gave, he took the paper again, and then he left.
Alaji Martin seemed to have had, or seemed to have performed several roles. He seemed to have been very active in that process. Is that the case?
Yes, he was very active, yes.
What do you say to the suggestion that he was just there and he didn't say or do anything?
That would be a very, very big lie. If that is going to be a fabrication.
So that speech you were made to write was going to represent the speech that they think you had written previously.
Exactly, exactly.
So how
and that's how they presented it to the president also. You know, the president, because
presented to who?
To the president.
Which president?
Yaya Jammeh.
So they took the speech to Yaya Jammeh?
Yes.
As if this is a speech that you had written at the planning of the coup.
Exactly.
When you were made to write that speech during that investigation.
Exactly.
By who made you write it?
The panelists. Purposefully, it was Alaji Martin, because he was the one who actually brought the papers and then also the pen. And but in consultation with the panel, with the senior members of the panel, like the Lanchomong and the IGP Sonko, and also Hydra. So they were all in conformity with that.
Nobody objected to it.
Nobody objected to that. None of them.
So after,
in fact, when I wrote the speech, before Alaji Martin took the speech, I forgot that part. Before he took the speech away, he gave it to them. Each of them, read the speech, one by one, before he took it away.
And where do you think Alaji Martin went to with this speech?
I don't know. I cannot tell.
You said that President Jammeh was aware of this speech. How do you know that?
Years later, after everything, I was told that he made an announcement that the person who wrote this speech will read this speech by himself on the national television. It was after everything that I came to realize that. But at that time, I didn't know where the speech was taken, but it was after everything I came to realize that the speech was given to the president.
So after you wrote this speech, what happened?
Yes, when after I wrote the speech, I was made to go back to Mile 2.
And then, what happened in Mile 2?
In Mile 2, nothing. I was in my cell. I was put in my cell, and then until the next day.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and what happened after that?
Yeah, the next day was on the 24th, and then they came for me at around 4 o'clock. Yeah, I think about 4 p.m.
Uh-huh.
The junglers, those people, who were the ones the arresting team,
But perhaps before that, let me ask another question. When the paper was placed in front of you by Alaji Martin, did you immediately start writing, or you still wouldn't write anything?
No, when the paper was placed before me, I was thinking what to write. I was thinking first what to write, and then I could hear one of the panelists say, start with fellow Gambians. So
they started dictating this speech.
Yes. One of them was echoing from the start with fellow Gambians. So then I started with that, and then I just wrote what just came into my mind.
Did anybody else say anything that you should do? In your statement here,
yes,
this is what you said, and correct us if this does not capture the truth of what happened.
Yes.
This is what you said. Before writing anything, I looked around the conference hall and I realized that all eyes were on me. In the hall was Langtombong Tamba, Deputy Chief of Defense Staff, Usman Sonko, Inspector General of Police, and Mohammed Haidara, one of the directors of the NIA. I have asked you earlier whether Alaji Martin was there, and you said yes, he was there.
Yes.
So you went on to say, these people were the ones who were giving all the orders pertaining to the investigations. There were armed soldiers with assault rifles stationed at the corners of the conference hall.
Yes.
I had no choice but to comply.
Exactly.
I put a pen on a sheet of paper and began to think of what to write. So this is the sheet of paper you said who gave to you?
Alaji Martin.
And the pen who gave to you?
Alaji Martin.
Good. And then you proceeded on to say that as minutes passed by, somebody asked, what was I waiting? Who was that person?
I think it was Langtombong Tamba.
Indeed, in your statement you said Langtombong Tamba asked for what I was waiting.
Yes.
I replied that I had to think. It took some time before I could think of anything to write about the coup.
Yeah.
Someone in the panel cautioned that I should start with fellow Gambians.
Exactly.
Does that reflect accurately what happened?
Exactly.
Alaji Martin gave you the pen and the paper and asked you to write.
Exactly.
And Langtombong Tamba told you, asked you, what are you waiting for?
Exactly.
Implying that you should write.
Yes.
And somebody, one of them started dictating the commencement of the speech that you were to write.
Exactly.
Ostensibly suggesting that there was a speech that was written previously.
Exactly.
So this was a forgery.
Indeed, there was no speech, found on me, and I just want to make this very clear that, the indication that there was a speech found on me was a fabrication. It was not true, and none of them could actually, come here to testify that it was the truth, if they have to swear to the Quran or to the Bible. So that is my position on this. And actually, this particular speech happened to be the one that was used in the court martial as the prima facie evidence in our case. The court relied, because there was no other evidence to link us to the coup, because there was no weapon, there was nothing was found, nothing absolutely.
And that speech was
And that speech was the one that was used as the prima facie evidence to actually, try us in the court martial.
And it was a forgery. It
was
prepared in advance.
It was a false evidence.
So, how did you come to sign the document? Were you asked, or some other means was used to get you to sign the document?
You mean the speech? No, I was made to sign it. Alaji Martin, I told you, Alaji Martin went with the coup, with the speech. After some time, he returned, and then he spoke with Langtombong, and then he came over to me and said, "No, you have to sign the speech." And of course, I have to sign. I signed. I had no other choice.
Did you consider yourself having been forced to sign the speech?
Intimidated to sign this.
Thank you for that correction. And on that day, what time did you return back to the NIA?
On the same day?
To the Mile 2 prison.
Yes, I went to Mile 2 prison around, so it must be around 4 to 5, between 4 to 5 p.m.
And then what happened when you got to Mile 2?
Yes, I was taken to my cell.
Did you see any men in black when you returned to the Mile 2?
They were the ones escorting me.
What was their frequency at Mile 2 prisons at this time?
Oh, they're always there to pick people, bring, out, in and out, every time, it happened that, whenever you, when you're entering the security wing, there's a gate, that you have to pass through to go to the security wing. So that gate, normally when you come there, you have to knock at the door. So we became so accustomed to the knocking of that door the way, in the manner they do it, you know, or they did it. Whenever they have come to pick someone, they just knock on the door very powerfully. And even if you are inside, you could hear the knocking. So most of us know we had all the time the apprehension that, you know, and fear, you know, who will be next. You know, whenever you hear the knocking, you know, you have to be alert, because you could be next, and or someone else could be next. So that was the feeling we had in prison at that time.
Why was it so fearful?
Because when they come, you know, they take you, you know, you will never know what's going to happen to you. So sometimes they take you and then they torture you and they bring you back.
Was this routine?
It was routine, of course. Every time, you know, they come and pick someone and they go. Sometimes, you know, the person will come, you know, with some injuries, you know. So it became, you know, a continuous routine.
What was the connection between members of the investigative panel and those who were doing the torturing?
Actually, they are one and the same. You know, two sides of the coin. Actually, the panel, they were the ones who were investigating the alley crime, and then these people were the ones who were used to go and pick anybody the panel need, you know, to interrogate. So if the panel interrogated a person and then realized that, no, they couldn't get any information of useful nature that they want, they use these people to torture you, to get that, you know, confession from you.
That is a very serious allegation.
Of course, you know, that was what happened. It was not an allegation. That was what actually happened.
So you're suggesting that Langtombong Tamba used the junglers to torture the detainees?
Not only Langtombong Tamba, the entire panel. Yeah,
the question is, for now, Langtombong Tamba, he used these junglers to torture those prisoners who were arrested in relation to this 2006 coup d'etat.
Of course, of course.
You're saying that Momodou Sonko, or rather Usman Sonko,
yes,
used these guys to torture the detainees?
Yes.
So you're saying that Haidara also used these guys to torture?
Yes.
Alaji Martin and Tumbul Tamba and all of them used these junglers to torture the detainees?
Yes.
So it was a collective effort?
Exactly.
This was their modus operandi?
Exactly.
This is how they did things?
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's
because
like
they dictate who is to come before the panel and who is to, whatever is supposed to happen to anybody, they were aware, they must have been, they are always aware of it. They were always aware of what was happening.
In your statement, you said this. I would read it out and correct me if anything in it is wrong.
Yes.
It says, in the days and weeks that followed, new detainees kept coming. Very few were released due to one reason or another. The men in black, who had been identified as junglers, kept coming at night to collect detainees at random based on instructions of the investigation panel or the orders of the State House, the seat of the presidency.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes.
You accept that?
Yes.
True. I continue. Yeah. Physical torture had become the modus operandi of the investigators. Many detained suspects had been severely tortured in order to extract information from them.
Yes.
Oftentimes, detainees were brought back to the prison with severe wounds and bruises all over their bodies.
Yes.
Is this correct?
Correct.
That's your testimony?
That's my testimony.
On the 24th March, could you tell us what happened?
On the 24th March, I was again collected by the same junglers, and then I was taken to the NIA headquarters. This time around, I was supposed to appear before an independent witness, just to be able to sign my statement, because the statement that I took on the 22nd was never in the presence of an independent witness. So the purpose of taking me on that day was for me to be present for the independent witness to sign the statement that I had already recorded before.
And what was the purpose of the independent witness signing the statement at that stage, what were they going to represent in that statement?
Well, I think, they wanted to rectify what, they did, what happened wrong, wrongly. They wanted to rectify their wrongs. And then that was why, they called the independent witness to come and then, sign the statement, because he was not there when I recorded the statement.
So, was it made obvious on the statement that the confession contained in the statement was not made in the presence of the independent witness?
No, it was not. It was not, written like that. It was not. Nothing was written like that.
How was it written?
Pardon?
How was it written?
No, I just wrote the statement. I gave it to Bodo Keita, and then, I think he is the one who should be able to write that, not me.
No,
he was the
what I am driving at is, what was the independent witness going to do with the statement?
Just to sign it.
Was the independent witness signing as if the statement was given in his presence, or was he signing that, well, here is a confessionary statement that was made previously and is now being presented to me as independent witness to sign?
Yes, I think that was what happened, because the independent witness signed the statement on the very day that it was presented to him, on the 24th, whilst I recorded the statement on the 22nd. So there,
there's a discrepancy in the dates.
Yeah, in the dates, yes.
The date of execution of or completion of the statement and the date of witnessing it by the independent witness.
They were different.
The dates were different.
Exactly.
Okay. So you are to be taken to the NIA for that purpose. What happened?
Yeah. So when you have a small office-like room at the when you are entering the conference hall on the right-hand side. So we entered in that office. We found a gentleman there sitting at the desk, and the independent witness was also there. So the independent witness asked me, the first question he asked me was I tortured? And then my first answer was yes. And then before he could ask again, the armed escort that was inside the room, with us there, actually, pinched me with the muzzle of the rifle that he was having. And when I look at him, I saw a very serious face, and then I knew what that means, So
what does that mean?
Yeah, that means I have to. My answer should not be, he was cautioning me, to actually say otherwise, that I was not tortured. That was my.
Was it a caution or was it a threat?
It was a threat, but it was an implied threat, I could say. He didn't speak to me, but when he did that, when I look at his face, I could see the seriousness in his face, and then I knew that if I said anything otherwise, it will not be very good, with me. So I decided to say that, when he asked me the second time, I said no, I was not tortured.
Okay, but let me take you a step backwards.
Mm-hmm.
As you were being taken from the prisons to the NIA, did anything happen to you?
Yeah, of course. When they came to pick me up from the prisons, I was handcuffed from behind, and then they were actually slapping me from the back, taking me with their boots, until we arrived at the gate, at the door of the number 5 cell block. And then
who was doing this to you? Who was slapping and kicking you?
Yeah, those people who came to collect me.
Could you remember any one of them?
Pardon?
Could you remember their names?
Yeah, these are almost the same people who used to come. The names that I gave before. If there are others, if there are additional people, there will be only maybe 1 or 2. But these are the same people who used to come and pick me up.
The names you gave us were Man Lafikor.
No, that was the initial arrest.
Yes. Yes. Nuha Baji.
Yes.
Michael Sankoria.
Yes.
Momodu Jaju Rambo.
Rambo, yes.
These were the names you provide.
Yes, and sometimes you have this guy also used to come there. Mustafa Sane also used to come.
Mustafa Sane.
Yes, also used to come there. And they
also jungler.
Also a jungler, yes.
So, did you sustain any injuries from this slapping and kicking?
No, at that point, no, I didn't sustain any injury. But when I was about go out of the cell block, one of them stamped me very violently, and I almost fell down. My falling was stopped by one of the prison officers who were sitting at the table. They were the ones who actually prevented me from falling down. So one of them boldly told them that, no, look, if you want to kill him, take him out of this place. He told those people, he told them, if you want to kill him, wait until you take him out.
But during that process, did you hear what, if anything, was happening to some of the other inmates?
During the process?
When you were being taken
yes,
from
one of the when I was when they were taking me across the corridor, when I was they were taking me, and then one of them said in Mandinka, he said meaning that today they will kill this man, they will kill him.
And that was before you received the last kick.
Exactly.
How did you feel during this period?
Well, helpless.
And then you
helpless and defenseless.
And then you were taken to the mile to NIA to sign, to have the statement signed by the independent witness.
Exactly.
So after that was done, what happened?
Yes, after that was done, I was returned to the prison yard. So as I was about to alight from the vehicle, in fact, I was allowed to come out of the vehicle at that place. So when I came out from the vehicle, I was walking towards the admin office, and all of a sudden, this man, Momodu Jaju Rambo, just swept my feet off me, and then I was about to fall flat on my face. So with the help of God, also with my good reflexes, I twisted, and then I fell on my hand. Then my hand was handcuffed behind me. So when I fell down, it was on a concrete floor. So my hand twisted. I had a fracture, wrist fracture here, and also a dislocation. So I was lying there until when the prison officers lifted me up. And then they realized that my hand, I had a problem with my hand because my hand had twisted, and then it has already, the handcuff made it like bend, it bended it. So the bone was broken completely. So when they lifted me, and then the junglers, they knew what happened, but they decided to go away, satisfied with what happened. And then the prison officers escorted me up to the cell block, and that was where they removed the handcuff. And when they removed the handcuff, it was clear to them that the hand was broken. So they called one prison officer, Salifu Jamme, from Kanilai, and then I think he said he is good at making bones, to replace bones. So he was called to come. So when he came, he was the one who actually pulled my hand, and then he was making some incantations, and then he tied a rack around my hand, my wrist. And then he told me, okay, don't remove this until such a time that I come and remove it. So I remained in the cell like that.
Were you taken to hospital?
No, I was not taken to hospital.
Were you given any medication?
No treatment at all. no treatment at all, except that no, some of the inmates, those I found in the prison there, like the late Lamin Dabo, the late Aluba, also Lamin Jaju, they used to come around, and any of them who have any painkiller medicine, for instance, because my, as time goes on, my hand was paining me very severely. So they used to give me some painkillers, and I used to use those painkillers. But no prison officer, came to my aid. Also, neither the medic also.
You have mentioned a few people here, and with the qualification late Lamin Dabo, late Aluba, late Lamin F. Jame, and late Lamin Jaju.
Yes.
They're all dead?
Yes, they were executed in the prison. They were the ones who were among the 9 people who were executed, in the prison.
Thank you very much. So these people provided you with medication?
Yes.
Okay. So
occasionally they send painkillers. Those were their own medication, but they decided to help me with them simply because I was in pain.
So did you have cause to go back to the NIA? Did you have reason to go back to the NIA?
Yes, I went to the NIA the next day also, on the 25th.
So what happened?
Yes, I was actually, escorted there. In fact, that time I went with Alphaba. Alphaba, was also, removed from the cell, and then together we were moved to, although we didn't enter the same vehicle, but we were all taken at the same time to the NIA headquarters. So when we arrived there, they sat us all down at the entrance of the conference hall, myself and Alphaba, and we had some armed escorts who were, guarding us. So we were there, and then I saw Tamsir Jassi coming out of the conference hall, and then we greeted, each other, and then he passed.
And what was his condition when you saw him, Tamsir Jassi?
Tamsir Jassi, he was very tense. He was not looking happy. He was tense, and I could read from his face that he was not the least happy. I didn't know what actually was happening inside the conference hall at that time. But when he came out, he was not the least happy. He was very, very tense, and he was not happy at all.
And who else did you find there?
Were in the conference hall?
Yes.
No, later, Alphaba was called to go to inside the conference hall. So I remained seated there, and then after about 20 minutes, Alaji Martin came in, out of the conference hall, and then he just did, without any word, he just held my hand that was where I had the fracture. Yes. And then he started removing that rag that was tied around my hand. So I told him, no, you shouldn't remove this thing because I'm advised not to remove this. He said, no, but I have to. So he removed the rag from my hand, and he took it inside. I didn't know for what, but he took the rag inside. So I had to hold my hand, my wrist with my hand like this, like this. So after some time, I was also called to the conference hall. After Alphaba came out, I was called. So when I entered the conference hall, the room was full, was filled with people. About 30 people were.
At this stage, were you handcuffed?
No, I was not handcuffed.
All right, proceed.
Yeah, I was not handcuffed. So I went inside the conference hall. I realized that there were about 30 people inside the conference hall, or even more. And then you have a camera, video camera. This GHS camera was placed at the entrance, and then they placed a chair at the other end, and then you are told to go and sit on that chair. So I was holding my hand. I was holding my wrist in my hand when I was moving because I couldn't I couldn't be able to support my fracture any longer. So I had to hold with my other hand, and I entered the conference hall. And then when I was seated, they gave me my statement. In fact, my statement, was given to me by Alaji Martin, even before I entered the conference hall. So after I went through it again, he took it inside, and when I entered again, they gave it to me again for the second time. And then they started asking questions.
So let's get this straight. You came, but your hand was wrapped in some cloth.
Yes.
And that indicates that you have an injury on your hand.
Exactly.
So you are taken in. Well, before you were taken in, Alaji Martin removed that bandage from your hand.
Exactly.
And then you were placed in front of a camera.
Yes.
What do you think was happening here?
Yeah, they were trying to, record, whatever, they wanted to believe it was a confession, by us, like to make us guilty, for instance.
And they wanted to hide your injury?
Exactly, also.
They did not want it to
be seen by the camera.
That you had bandage over your arm.
Exactly.
So you were placed there, and what were you asked to do?
Yeah, I was given the statement and also the speech that I wrote in the conference hall, as well. And then, they were asking me questions based on, the statement that I gave and also other issues. So, when they asked the questions, I responded. And then Haidara was leading the questioning at that time. And then, so anybody who wants to ask a question would have to write a piece of paper and pass it to Haidara. Haidara was sitting just next to Lanto Montama, between Lanto Montama and Usman Sonko. So anybody who wants to ask a question, you either push it to Haidara or Lanto Montama, who will push it to Haidara, and then Haidara will ask the question.
Were they captured in the video?
No, they were not captured in the video. None of them were captured in the video. Only the video was only focusing on the person who was, being interviewed, who was being asked. So that it felt like there was no one in the room.
So they staged it as if it was only the person being interviewed who was in the room.
Exactly.
When in fact, how many people were there?
We are about 30 or more people. I couldn't be able to count, but they were about 30. The room was filled to capacity.
How did you feel at this stage?
I feel bad about it, And then at the end of everything, I was made to also read the speech, the speech that I was made to write in the conference hall. I was made to read the speech also before the camera.
How were you made to read it?
Yeah, they gave it to me and they said, you have, read the speech. You have to read it. It's written,
Did they say what would happen if you did not read it?
No, they didn't tell me what would happen. They just told me, they gave it to me and said, you have to read this speech. And, I have to read it. I read it.
Did you feel obliged to read it, or was it, did you have options?
No, out of my own free will, I was not going to read the statement of the speech because it was a fabricated speech. It was never a speech that was found on me. So I was just made to, read it, by intimidation, of course, by duress.
So the room, where were the armed soldiers, the armed men who brought you in? Where were they at this time?
The armed men?
Yes.
Yes, I couldn't know at the time where they were, but I believe that either they must have gone for another errand or they must be inside the hall, but I couldn't be able to be sure where they were.
Were there any armed men in the room?
Yes, they were. They were.
And what else? What else happened? What else did they tell you to do?
And then at the end of everything, they said, you have to apologize to the president. In fact, they told me the president is watching you right now. And then, if you have any apology, statement, you can, make it to the president. You have, apologize to the president. So I said, well, what kind of apology? And then they said, no, just say any kind of apology, just any apology remarks, you can, So they also told me that, no, some of the others who came here, they apologized to the president, so you also have, can also apologize. So I decided to also apologize, but the whole thing is just to make you feel, guilty, and also to make the government people feel that, no, you are the bad element.
In your statement, this is how you put it.
Yes. Yes.
I was told that the president was listening to what I had to say, to what I had said, and that I should apologize to him.
Yes.
I asked, what type of apology? I was told that I could say anything as long as it was an apologetic remark.
Yes.
I was told that I must make an apology because all those who came before me had apologized to the president.
Exactly.
I began to feel that it was a kind of intimidation on the part of the investigators, just to please the president and to make us the guilty ones in the eyes of the Gambian population.
Exactly.
I didn't care anymore. I didn't care anymore. Here it says I did care anymore.
I didn't care anymore. That should have been the
Yes, I didn't care anymore because I was all along with the thought that I was going to be killed sooner or later.
Exactly.
I apologized to the president as requested. After that, I was escorted out of the conference room back to Mile 2 at around 12:30 p.m.
Exactly.
Was this real and done freely, or was it staged and what you did was compelled?
It was staged.
It was staged?
Yes.
What the people were saying and what was happening were different?
Of course.
And who participated in staging this?
The panelists. They did investigate, investigating panelists. They were the ones,
Langtombong Tamba?
Yes.
Mr. Haidara?
Yes.
Usman Sonko?
Yes.
Alaji Martin?
Yes.
Tumbul Tamba?
Yes.
Modu Lamin Sise?
Yes.
Boro Keita?
Bodo Keita.
Boto Keita?
Yes.
And Lamin Cham?
Yeah, Lamin Cham and many others. I couldn't be able to name all, but there are so many of them. And Fali Jabang also was.
All of these people were guilty of staging this gross misrepresentation to the Gambian people.
Exactly.
And what happened after that?
Yes, I was escorted. I returned, to Mile 2 prison. So after when I returned to the prison, my hands started to swollen, to swell, and then the pain was very excruciating, and I had to demand from the prison officers to call Salifu Jammeh again, the one who checked my hand before, to come. Up to this moment, I have not been taken to hospital. So I remain with this pain, and then I asked the prison officers to help me to get Salifu Jammeh again to check my hand. When Salifu came, he checked my hand and he said, no, the bones are still in place, but I told him that, no, I'm still feeling some pain. So he said, no, the soreness will subside and the pain will also subside, eventually. And then, he tied another rack again, around my hand, and then, he left. So I remained like that, but, the hand was actually, paining me very, very, very well. I couldn't sleep at night. So most of the painkillers that they sent for me when one of the inmates, sent to me, when I use them, I will feel, some relief. But then, that is very temporal. After some time, the pain will come back. So I was like that until one visiting doctor came to prison. He's an Egyptian. He came to prison to check on some inmates that were complaining of some ailments. So there is this mess boy. He's a Nigerian national, but has been in the Gambia for some time. He can speak some of the local languages. So he came to my cell and he told me, he was the mess boy. He told me, look, there is a visiting doctor in the prison here. So he told me, you know, request to see him, make a request to see him. You know, he did that, you know, because he didn't want the prison officers to know that, you know, he was giving me information. So I told him, what am I supposed to do? He told me, you know, just bang on the door. Then I started banging on the door, you know, and then the prison officers, they came and they asked me what happened. I said, I wanted to see I want to see the doctor. And then they went out, and then, you know, one person came and opened the door, and I was escorted. When I was escorted to where the conference, he was in the conference hall, you know, at the admin office. So I was escorted there. There were some people he was seeing, and after when when it was my turn, I went to him, and then, you know, I told him that, no, I had a problem with my hand. Then he checked. He told me, okay, I'm going to pinch your hand. If you feel any pain, you just indicate that you feel pain. So he did that, and then he told me that, no, you have a serious trauma on your hand and on your wrist, and then, you know, you have to go to hospital, you know, for X-ray, and then you know, for operation. So he wrote a referral, you know, to one. He gave it to one prison medic called Sagin. He was just Sagin. We call him James. I don't know his first name. Sorry, second name, but we call him James. Sagin James. So he gave it to Sagin James, you know, and then he told Sagin James that, no, I should be taken to hospital. But then Sagin James, for one reason or the other, didn't turn up, you know, or didn't, you know, I was not taken to hospital anyway. So I remained in that, you know, in that situation until the doctor came again, you know, after another week or so. He came again for the second time to come round. So again, the same mess boy, Onyeka, informed me again that the doctor is here. So again, I banged on the door, and the prison officers came, and then again they allowed me to go and see the doctor. So this time around, the doctor was very angry. You know, he told them, look, I referred this man to the hospital. Why was he not taken? And the prison officer who was there, Famsu Sanyang, actually, you know, happens to come from the same village with me. And then he told, you know, him I was not the one who was here. I told the Famsu it was James who was here before, Sagin James. So he told Famsu, okay, go and call the most senior medic, let him come. So Famsu went and then came with couple Waf Kujabi. When couple Waf Kujabi came, the doctor told him that this man needs to go to hospital. If you allow this man to remain in this condition, there's a likelihood that, no, his hand will be cut, because, you know, there could be an infection, and then the hand, you know, is going to be cut. So it's better you take him to the hospital now. So he told Waf, you know, bring him on Friday at the hospital, and when you come, you know, just call me. So on Friday, that was on Friday, I was taken to the hospital. So when we arrived at the hospital, you know, Waf, you know, did as the doctor directed. So when the doctor came, he also introduced me to another doctor. Actually, it was that doctor, you know, who referred me to X-ray, to go and do some X-ray, and I went to do the X-ray. I brought the X-ray results, and then he checked, and then he said, no, you have to go back again. He wrote on the paper what kind of X-ray, what kind of angle they should X-ray again on my hand. So I went again for the second time, and then they did that, and I brought the results. And then he told me, you have to go to the minor theater. So I went to the minor theater, and that was where they tried to treat my you know, put the bones in place, and also put a cast, you know, around my hand. Also the plaster, they put a plaster, you know, around my hand. So they gave me also a hanging rope, hanging this thing that I could put my hand into. Then after that operation, I was escorted back to mile 2. So,
tell us about the 25th day of March. What happened?
25th?
March 2006, when while at mile 2, security wing, you had the junglers coming in.
Yes, that was it. Yeah, that was the day the junglers came and then removed some people. You know.
Could you tell us who was removed?
Yes, the cell block, where I was, the cell where I was in cell number 7. Now this cell was very perpendicular to the cell that the Marina was, and also Ibulo. We used to chat, you know. We used to, you know, stand at the peephole and we used to, you know, converse.
So obviously at this stage, more people were arrested.
Yes.
Could you tell us who are the additions that you can remember, the additional detainees you could remember?
I couldn't be able to tell every, you know, when this, you know, this coup, about almost coming to almost 70 people have been arrested for this particular alleged coup.
You were arrested by Manlafikor.
Yes.
What happened to him afterwards?
Yeah, Manlafikor also was arrested.
And what did they do to him?
Yeah, Manlafikor was arrested. You know, he was also severely tortured. Manlafikor, you know, in the morning when we were open to go and pour our chamber pots, when I look at Manlafikor, his both 2 eyes were swollen. You know, he was able to see with a very small, with one of the eyes, you know, open just a little to be able to see. You know, both eyes were swollen, you know, very, 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 very swollen. And then, you know, I could also see that, you know, when he's walking, he limps. He was not walking normally as he used to walk. You know, he used to limp. I don't know whether, you know, he has a problem with his one of his legs, but he used to limp also. And, you know, Ibulo was also tortured. You know, he could not stand on one of his legs. You know, I don't know what happened to the leg, but Ibulo cannot stand on that leg. He couldn't stand on it. Anytime, you know, he's going to the bathroom, you know, to the shower, he has to be assisted. He couldn't be able to walk properly.
So on that night, that
yes.
25th of March, what happened to these people?
What happened to them was that, you know, they came. We had a knock on the door because, you know, at night, you know, we hardly sleep because, you know, all the time, you know, you have this apprehension that, no, they are coming, because they always come at night, most of the time. You know, they always come at night to pick people, you know, to take them out. So anytime you had a knock, because now we are very accustomed to the way they knock at the door, at the gate, at the iron gate. Whenever they knock, we knew that they are the ones who are coming, because we mastered the way the knocking, you know, happened.
And how did you feel? What did that make you feel? How did
yes,
that
you
make
you know, very apprehensive, and you know, you feel, you know, that, you know, anything could happen anytime, you know, because, you know, for me, I was thinking that I was only waiting to be killed. That was my concept at that time. So anytime they could just come for me. You know?
When they came this time around, what did they do?
Yeah, when they came, you know, I saw them coming, you know, and then, you know, they were approaching, you know, to my area because, you know, you have to pass my cell before going to the cell of, how do you call it, Daba Marina and then Ibulo. So when they were approaching, you could hear the footsteps coming, you know. So I decided to recite, you know, some, you know, verses from the Quran, you know, just to invoke the name of Allah, you know. So, Hasbi Allah la ilaha illahu alayhi tawakkaltu wa huwa rabbul azizil azim. I was reciting that.
I would not ask you what that means, but proceed.
So that was what I was reciting, and then, you know, they came and then they passed my door. You know, when they passed my door, so I tiptoed, and then I came to the peephole. I stood at the peephole, and I was looking where they were going. So they just stopped. After they passed my door, they just stopped, because my door is not very far from where Marina was. You know, we are opposite, you know, like perpendicular, you know. It's just like this, my cell is here. So they stopped. When they stopped, they opened the door. Marina came out, and they just handcuffed him. Then, you know, they also stopped at Ibulo's cell door. They opened, you know, and they took Ibulo out. Also, he was handcuffed. But Ibulo even was, you know, they had to assist Ibulo because he couldn't walk properly.
So he couldn't walk properly?
Exactly.
And Manlafikor?
Yes, Manlafikor, you know, I didn't know. Manlafikor and I were not in the same corridor. He, you know, he was moved to another corridor, you know, after the torture. So we are not in the same corridor, you know, anymore.
And what happened after that?
Yes, after that, you know, these people, you know, they went around to other corridors and they were, you know, to go and, I think, you know, to collect other people. And then after that, you could hear their footsteps, you know, going out.
And did you see any of those people again?
Never.
Do you know or hear or heard what happened to them?
Yes, you know, we have a radio in the inside the confinement. The radio is connected to almost all the cells. We have the speakers connected to all the cells. So whenever there were announcements, you know, we used to listen to the announcements. Radio Gambia, most of the time, you know, every news we want to hear what was happening. So on that occasion, you know, it was on the news that, you know, these people, you know, we have been taken to the Nyambore prison, and then there was an accident, you know, the truck, and then these people, you know, they escaped. That was the information, you know, that we had on the radio.
Mr. Lowe, Ibu Lowe.
Yes.
Could he have escaped anything?
Impossible. Ibu Lowe could not walk. How could he have escaped from his cup? In fact, I want to just inform you that when these people, when they went to arrest Bajinka, Khalifa Bajinka, when they went to arrest Khalifa Bajinka at mile 7, and he was not even brought. He was not even, you know, caught. Those people who went to arrest Bajinka, you know, were put in prison. Those people who were guarding, you know, Bubu, you know, that General Bubu who came to the Gambia here, and Bubu happened to escape. Those people were brought to prison. In fact, they were court-martialed.
And these guys who were...
But these guys, you know, who were escorting these people, and these people happened to escape, unquote.
What happened to them?
Nothing happened to them. They were never brought to the prison.
Was any one of them promoted?
I wouldn't be sure of that, but none of them had been brought to prison. So that shows that, no, what they were saying was not true. It was a fabrication.
And what happened to you the next day? We are running out of time. What happened to you the next day?
No, actually nothing happened to me on the next day
the
until...
26th?
Pardon?
The 26th of... All right.
On the 6th of...
Fast forward to the 6th of April.
Yeah, 6th of April, exactly. 6th of April. But this happened before I was taken to hospital for my my hand. Still my hand was broken, but I was not taken to hospital for the cast to be put, you know, around my hand. So I was taken to, again, you know, to the NIA headquarters. I was removed together with Yaya Dabo. You know, again, we were not put in the same vehicle, but we were taken together. And then when we arrived at the NIA headquarters, we were, you know, it was Musa Jame, we found on the ground there, and he was the one who received us. So
Musa, does he have another name?
Yes, they call him Malia Mungu.
Okay, proceed, please.
Yes. So he actually, you know, he was the one who received us at the NIA headquarters, and then he led the way, and then we followed him. You know, Nuhabaji was, you know, was following behind, the other escorts were following behind, including Nuhabaji and all those other ones. So when we climbed to the conference hall, you know, Musa Jame opened the conference hall, and we were made to stop at the door, you know. But when he entered the conference hall, he didn't close the door completely, but I could hear him saying, "Sir, they are here." So I didn't know who he was talking to say, "Sir, they are here." But he was talking to someone inside the conference hall, and he was telling the person, "Sir, they are here." I could hear those words very clearly because he, it was by mistake. He didn't, lock the door. The door was half open.
And then what happened after that?
After that, he came out and we were, escorted again downstairs to, he passed through the, there's one reception there, and they passed through the reception, and then the DARBOE was told to wait at the reception, that reception there. He was told to sit and wait, and then he was given an escort, a guard, an armed guard, and then I was escorted to, a yard, a small yard, just at the, when you just go out, there's a yard there. It's an open yard. You have some flowers that are surrounding the place. And then, that was where, I found, about 5, donglers, 4 or 5 donglers. So they were waiting for me there. So when I came...
Do you recognize any one of them?
Yes, I recognize them, of course. I recognize Nuha Baji, I recognize Bora Koli. Bora Koli was there, Nuha Baji was there, Mustafa Sane was there, Tumbul Tamba was there, and then also this Rambo was there. Yeah, these are the ones I could recognize. Yeah.
And then what happened?
Yeah, so I was made to, to kneel down. So when I knelt down, they put a plastic bag. Suddenly they just put a plastic bag over my face. And then one of them will hold the plastic bag so tight that you couldn't be able to breathe. And once they put this plastic bag over your head, then, the whips will start coming. Those ones who were standing, they were beaten, with whips. So I was being beaten, and then, when they beat me for almost, 5 minutes, I was in that condition. 5 minutes beaten, whilst I was, in a plastic bag. I was almost going to be suffocated when they said, when Malia Mungu, that's Musa Jame, told them to stop. And then they removed the plastic bag, off my face, my head, and then I gasped for air, and then my breathing was very fast. I was breathing very fast. And then Musa Jame was asking me questions that, I refused to answer. I told him I don't know anything about those questions.
What were those questions?
He was asking me about, where the support was coming from, who was supporting the coup, and also who was supposed to be the president who was supposed to be the interim president when the coup was successful. He was asking me those kind of questions. So, but I declined to, respond to those questions. And then, anytime he asked the questions and I said, I don't know, he would ask them to put the plastic bag again on and the beating continued. So this continued, for almost, 1 hour. When he knew that, I was not going to say anything, and he became so frustrated because he wanted those questions. Then he told those people, if we still insist not to say anything, if you refuse to talk, just take him and finish him. That's what he said. So these people, that time, my muscles were very weak. I couldn't be able to stand properly. I couldn't be able to walk. So they dragged me. They dragged me on my feet, to like a small building, and then they dragged me to that behind that building. Just behind it, it's very dark there. So they forced me on my knees again, and then one of them, came behind me and then cocked a pistol, and then he told me, "Say your last prayers." But I did not answer, and I didn't reply. I just remained silent. At that point, I really wanted to, to die. I didn't want to live at that time. I was so much, so much tired. The pain was too much. that, you know, I preferred that to live at that time, you know, because I wanted to be free from the pain and the humiliation.
Did you suffer any injuries?
Ali?
Did you suffer any injuries?
Yes, I was beaten until you know, such a time that, you know, when they beat me, you know, my body became numb now. Even if they beat me with the whips now, I couldn't feel any pain on my back or on my body, because the body became numb. So, you know, I couldn't be able to, I couldn't feel any pain anymore, any longer. You know, the only pain I felt at that time was my hand. And also when they hit me on my eyes, and my eyes, you know, became very swollen. I could feel the pain there. I thought I was going to lose my eye.
Did they make you lie on the floor, on the ground?
Yes, when when they, that man cocked the weapon, I didn't say anything, and then, you know, for quite some time, I was in that position, and then Musa Jammeh, for one reason or the other, realized that I was not going to budge. Then he told them, okay, bring him back. So they brought me back, and then he told one of the Nuhab Baji, to take me aside and then let me lie flat on my belly, and also to spread my legs. So I did that, and Musa how do you call it? Nuhab Baji was told to be my guard, to guard me. And this Nuhab Baji was someone I trained as a recruit. At the training school when I was posted there, as an assistant instructor, I trained him with others. So this was the guy who was even part of those who were torturing me on that day.
And you see the value in training them to respect the law, to not to take the law in their own hands, and not to obey unlawful orders.
Of course.
Thank you very much. How about your colleague? What happened to him, Yaya Darboe?
Yes, after when they did that to me to lie down on my stomach, and also to spread my legs, and just remain in that position, Yaya Darboe was brought. So when Yaya Darboe was brought, whatever was happened to Yaya Darboe, I was private to it because I was watching, and then Yaya Darboe was also the same thing that happened to me. They put plastic bag over his head, So I could see the kind of beatings that they did to me was the same thing that they were doing to Yaya Darboe as well. In fact, Yaya Darboe, the first hit of the whip, what he said was, Alenyate. That was the first thing he said,
What could you translate that in English?
Yes, you have broken my eyes. So, that was what he said, So, Yaya Darboe was also asked about some issues at the airport, that he was the one who was supposed to be, how do you call it, manning the airport, the AAG at the airport, he was responsible for the airport, not for the flight, not to land at the airport. So they were asking him, but he denied all those questions as well, and they also continued beating him just like they did to me. So when they finished, what they wanted to do, even though they couldn't get anything, from us, so we were told to go back to Mile 2. Our escorts were told to take us back. So, but even as we were walking to the vehicle, these people were still beating us with their whips until the time that we entered the vehicle.
Did you hear them bring any?
Yes. So
person?
as we were being taken, Musa Jammeh told them, bring Mariam Denton. Yeah, I heard that. He was instructing. He was giving them instruction. Bring Mariam Denton.
Do you know who they were referring to?
I think they were referring to Mariam Denton. I think he presently is the Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Did you see her being brought in or not?
No, I did not. By the time they said she was been brought, then we were going back. So I didn't know at the time that they brought her and what happened to her.
What injuries did you sustain?
I sustained, an injury on my eyes, my right eye. I also sustained injuries all over my body, especially my back. My back, was, lacerated, completely lacerated.
What happened to you when you arrived at mile 2?
So when we arrived at mile 2, as they were recording our coming, the prison officers, I fainted. I didn't know where I was again. I found myself in my cell. It was after, it was DARBOE who told me, that, I fainted. I didn't know. I just found myself in my cell.
Apart from this instance of torture, were you ever tortured again? Apart from this incidents of torture, were you tortured again?
No, I was not tortured again.
So it was after this you were taken for trial and court-martial?
Exactly.
Okay, Mr. Chair, perhaps we should wrap it at this. We would have a special hearing on the NIA, the investigative panels, and the court-martials. So at which time Mr. DARBOE has agreed to come again and testify about those things. So for now, I think we should leave it at this. I hand him over to you for further questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emma Counsel, and thank you very much, Mr. DARBOE, for your testimony. Would we then hold off concluding remarks until the end of his final appearance?
Yes, Mr. Chair. But nonetheless, you can still ask further questions if you want to.
Yes. I'll do that. I just wanted to make sure that we're on the same page on that one. Thank you again, Mr. DARBOE. And I'm truly sorry that you had to endure yet another massive brutality in the hands of our security forces, our security officers here. Commission members, do you have any questions? Bishop, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. BUNJA DARBOE.
Yes, sir.
The junglers, who are they? What are their functions? And are they part of the regular army?
Well, they are soldiers of the Gambia Armed Forces. They are enlisted members of the Gambia Armed Forces. And, I think their role has been transformed into, being talks instead of, being serving the interests of the Gambian people.
My follow-up question to you is it the perception of the Gambian army that they could, at will, overthrow a government?
No, I will not say that it is the perception of the Gambian Armed Forces. Whatever happens was individual. My individual perception was that I felt that I had a moral obligation. That is my individual perception, not the perception of the members of the Gambia Armed Forces. I couldn't speak for them, but for me, I took the decision to actually take part in removing, a government that I thought was undemocratic, a government that was killing his own people, a government that was actually, using the army against the people. So obviously, that was my personal, obligation. I took it as my personal moral obligation, not the actual perception of the Gambia Armed Forces. So I wouldn't say that it is the perception of the armed forces that they can be able to take over the country at will. No, that was not my concept.
Well, thank you very much for clarifying this last point, and I do hope that that knowledge is imparted to junior officers, I presume you are a senior officer in the Army at the moment, they should know that that moral obligation and all that take a backseat to constitutional and legal requirements.
I think also what we should be able to occupy ourselves with is to ensure that there is a functional democracy in a country. Because once there is a functional democracy, it also changes the perception of the military. The perception of the military, changes, alongside, the kind of governance in place. Yahya Jammeh has used the army against the people, and we all knew that here in this country. So, because nobody, was able to raise a voice against what was happening in this country, Yahya Jammeh was having a free will to use the army against the people. These junglers were part of the army. He was using them against the people. There was no functional democracy at that time, no freedom of speech at that time. So I think, what we should preoccupy ourselves now, is to ensure that we have functional democracy in a country. Freedom of speech, freedom of association, so that, the military is going to be subordinate to the civil authority. But whereas in those days, we feel that, the armed forces was used as a tool of Yahya Jammeh to, create havoc. Not only the army, even the police, even the paramilitary were used against the people. So, we were having a situation whereby, it's either, someone, has a moral obligation to try to, not to neglect what was happening to the people, what was happening to the other members of the Gambia Armed Forces, to take that moral obligation to try to do something. And that was what motivated me to take part, in that particular, this. So there was no functional democracy in the Gambia at that time, and this is what we have to work, to have in the Gambia. Because if there are no functional democracy in a country, obviously the people suffered. The ordinary people suffered. And are we going to sit and allow people to suffer, people to be killed, people to be raped, young girls to be raped, people orphans, we have a lot of orphans in the Gambia in those days. People whose fathers have been killed, the Bedouins have been killed. So I think, these are the things that, we have to, preoccupy ourselves to have a functional democracy. Once there is a functional democracy, there will be the position of the army will change automatically to be subordinate to the will of the people. But look at what happened in the Gambian Armed Forces. All these killings, happened because the Gambian Armed Forces were involved. They were the ones who were killing their, Gambian people. They were the ones who were killing their fellow officers. So, then we have a moral obligation, all of us. Not only me, not only, those people who went on, demonstrating, like Lawyer DARBOE and others. We all have moral obligation to stop certain things that are happening. So just to say that, no, okay, the possession of the armed forces is to, we have to change the possession. No, let's try to, regulate governance in this country. That's what is more important. Let's have democracy. Let us have functional democracy. Democracy that, in fact, you need to have, in our constitution, we need to have term limit. Because this lack of term limit in Africa is what caused most of the coups in Africa. The long stay in power, the overstay of, of people in power. You have people, who stay in power for, 30 years, for 20 years. Even up till now in Africa, you have presidents who are serving for 30-something years. Should we allow all those things to continue to happen in Africa? And most particularly in this country? In this country, since independence, we have only 2 presidents. This is the one who is ruling now is the 3rd one. If you go to other countries, they have changed, presidents. But in the Gambia, President Jammeh ruled for 30 years. He was overthrown. Yahya Jammeh ruled for 22 years. And then, he also, has to, he left the power. For 22 years, he has been suppressing the people. No one talked. No one said anything. So obviously we all have a moral obligation. If Yahya started doing these kind of things and people rise up, you know, he wouldn't have continued. But he continued suppressing the people, killing the people, you know, raping, you know, small children. So do we have to allow that to continue? Or do we have a moral obligation to do something? So I am not saying that, no, that was the position of the Gambia Armed Forces. But for me, you know, I believe that, no, I stand for the Gambia. And I'm not going to be a party to, you know, a situation where Gambian people, you know, are going to be, two of my colleagues have been killed. I trained with them, I went to Turkey with them, I came back with them. In 11 November, they were, you know, extrajudicially killed. I had that pain up till now. These are my closest colleagues. And so many other people have been killed just like that. What happened to Korosise? What has he done to be killed? So these are things that we have to, you know, stop in this country. These are things that we have to stop in this country. We cannot allow, things to happen like that. People being killed just like that, and we just turn a blind eye to what is happening. Look how many people have been killed, and what is happening to them now, to their families. Who is helping them? Who is helping their families now? Who is helping those orphans whose fathers have been killed? So let's try to occupy ourselves with, you know, a functional democracy in a country, not, what is the position of the armed forces. No, position of the armed forces will change alongside, you know, the governance of the country. When there are good governance, the armed forces will subject itself to the total will of the people, the sovereignty of the Gambia. But once, you know, that is not happening, you know, most of us who are serving in the armed forces, you know, most of us, not only me, others will have moral obligation, you know, individually, you know, moral obligation, of course. So that is what we have to, you know, try to prevent. You know, all of us have moral obligation. We are not talking about legal obligation here. You know, what is legal and what is not legal. But we are talking about moral obligation here. So for something to be legal is something else, but for something to have a moral, you know, obligation is something else. So I think we have to make that very clear.
Thank you. It's very difficult to argue with you the brutality, the torture that you have endured, what you said. But my brother, I can't disagree more with you on this point about constitutional rule of law, and leaving it to an entity that is not been given the role to define what is right in the country. You say to yourself, I have a moral obligation to overthrow the constitution of a country. Country would have to function on constitution and laws, rule of law. Can't turn around and then just say that, well, you're the third officer, a former officer, to come here and talk about the same position, the same issue, that the military have an obligation when things are not right to change that. That, as I said, in constitutions, libertarian ones, the declarations, they repose that right in the people, not the military. The other two military officers who were here before, saying the same thing about giving the same role to the military, one of them talked about, well, there was massive corruption under the Jawara regime, and therefore they had a right to correct that situation. I can't disagree more with anybody on that one. Constitutions, they bring about the change. You do it, yes, can advocate that, but to overthrow that constitution and then say that this is the right way to go about it, I can't disagree more with you. But before we continue,
okay.
Commissioner Carr, and then later on Deputy Chair. Please go on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so what I want to add to what you said is that no, even if I were not in the military, even if I were a civilian, I would still have the same moral obligation. So even if I were a civilian, I would have the same moral obligation to stand up, for the people. Yes, to stand up for the people. Even if I were not in this uniform, I feel that I have that moral obligation to stand for the people. And I would be able to do that, to stand for the people. So it doesn't matter whether I'm in the uniform or not. But what I'm saying here is that no, we have to have a moral obligation to stop certain things that are happening, the wrongs that are happening in our society. We have that moral obligation, everybody. That's my take.
Thank you, Commissioner Kawa.
Thank you, Chairman. The first question is, how did your family deal with your victimization? Has it affected them in any way?
Obviously, when I was arrested, my first child, the son was about 11 years old. The second one was about 8. And then the third one was 6 years old. The fourth one was about 4 years. So they were very young at the time I was arrested. Okay, so I also had my wife was pregnant, and at that time I was 7 months pregnant. And then when he delivered, he has a baby girl named Mariama, and then named after her own mother. So the first day, she came to visit me in prison. She came with the baby. So this baby has been coming to prison up to the time that I was released. Every visit, my wife would bring, that child. That child grew up, coming to prison. So they suffered, of course. My wife, before my incarceration, she was working before, but she decided to leave work and just concentrate on family matters only. But when I had this problem, he has to go back to work. She has to go back to work. She's a computer. She's teaching computer, in one school, and then she has to go back to work. She is now working up till now, so she has to go to work to actually fend for the family. The vehicle, my private vehicle, that my family could have, sold out to get some money to be able to live comfortably, was taken, and carried to the NIA and parked there for 9 years. 9 good years. I bought that car when I came from my peacekeeping mission in Liberia in 2000. So when I had this problem, part of the money I used to send my mom to Mecca. Part of the money I bought my compound in Santiago Sulejo, where I am right now. And then part of the money I built a house for my family in Farabanta. So I bought this car from that money. So I was using the car, in fact, to come to office, because I was not even given an official car. So this was the car I was using to come to office to work. So when I was arrested, they just went and picked this car from my in-laws' house where the car was parked, because that was where I was arrested. So they brought the car straight to NIA premises, and then, it was there for 9 years, 4 months. Then when I was released from prison after 9 years, 4 months, I went there, and then I told the director that, no, I have a vehicle here, and I want to take my vehicle. So they asked me the number of the vehicle. I gave them the number of the vehicle. So they went and checked, and the vehicle was there. But the vehicle was completely, out of road. So when I was allowed to take the vehicle, I had to tow the vehicle, and park it in my residence. So I couldn't have money to repair the vehicle. The vehicle is up till now is parked there just like that. So what I'm trying to say here is that my family, they suffered, during my incarceration, because they couldn't have any help from anywhere. So they really suffered, during my incarceration. But they were able to have the courage and the resilience, to remain, as a family until I came out.
Thank you. The second question is, do you still have any complications from your victimization? Does it still affect you in any way?
Presently, I just take everything in good faith. I'm no longer, when I was in prison, I was, I was feeling some bitterness, and then also when I was released, also, I was in exile. I went to Dakar. I went to Senegal. I was there, for some time. So I was away from my family again for about 1 year. Actually, the only medical problem I have now is, my right eye and also my wrist, dislocation. It's not properly healed. Up till now, I couldn't be able to lift something heavy with my left hand up till now, and I occasionally feel some pain, on my hand, whenever, I do certain activities. So that's it.
Finally, sorry, Mr. Chairman, this is the final question. Did you have what was your plan to return the country to democracy if at all the coup was successful?
Well, no, the plan was that, no, we are not going to be, in power just like, how Yaya Jammeh and others, remain in power, of course. We were suggesting names, to become interim presidents, names like, Dr. Ibrahim Samba was one of the names, we selected to be given the interim, presidency. That was what, I was discussing with Ndul Cham. And also, we also talk about Sidat Diop was also mentioned. Sidat Diop was also mentioned. And also, Ndul Cham mentioned somebody like Jebel Samba, another name he mentioned. So we were trying to contemplate, who among these people, will actually become the interim, presidents. Okay, Bibi Dabo's name also was mentioned. And then Ndul Cham also mentioned the former speaker, Sirif Diba's name was also mentioned. So we were trying to see, who among these people would have become, the interim president. We are not supposed to stay in power. We're supposed to just get this man out, and then, we just go back to, we are not going to be like Yaya Jammeh and others.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Kinte, you have the floor. You understand? You don't. Yeah. Thank you. Commissioner Kinte, you have the floor. Yes. Quick one.
Bunja, we really sympathize with you for all the suffering you had undertaken. I am just delighted that some of your points reiterated my argument. I made some argument here before when I said if all Gambians had got out, if all Gambians had felt obliged, especially at an earlier moment when the junta had not rooted so much, we would have uprooted them so easily, and the atrocities would have been so minimal, and we would have been at a different level of development now. Of course, I'm not saying I'm endorsing military takeover, but like the one in Sudan, the people came out and said, we don't need this guy. He's out. In Algiers, we don't need this guy, but the army had a role. They protected their activities and their processions and so on, and the success came through civil, but Gambia is far away that level. Well, maybe now, yes, we're seeing a lot of indicators that are encouraging. But otherwise, prior to now, Gambians are not bold enough to come out to say, this is not what we need, it's not acceptable, and we are asking you to stop. But maybe, hopefully, the trend now, with the new dispensation, we have seen some freedom in the media, for example, and so on. That's encouraging. And then meaning, and also some level of freedom in assembling and so on. Like if it were a certain governance period, APRC party would not have been allowed to go out, rally, and meet and everything. So those are good indicators that in the pipeline, And along the end of the tunnel, there is some light. Thank you very much, and
yes, I just want to add to what you just mentioned.
Yeah.
I can just proudly say that no, the Gambia Armed Forces is a different armed forces right now. It is not having the perception, as many of you are alluding to, that they are prone to taking up or overpower. Like the present armed forces, we are trying to build up an armed forces that is going to be totally disciplined, because the armed forces that were in the regime of Yahya Jammeh, they were totally indisciplined in that armed forces, because there was no respect to authority. Some people were just given blanket authority, like Solbaji. Solbaji was, when I was arrested in 2006, Solbaji was a sergeant in the Gambia Armed Forces. He was a mere sergeant. That person happens to rise through the ranks up to a rank of Lieutenant General. And he was having all the powers to do whatever he feels like doing in the Gambia. He was feared, just like Yahya Jammeh was feared. So we don't want to have those kind of armed forces in the Gambia any longer. And that is my point. The armed forces, have to be subjugated to the civil authority. But also the civil authority must have to be democratic, and there must be functional democracy in that particular country, in that particular moment. Now, what I'm saying here is that we also have to, remove anybody who is accused of torture in the Gambia Armed Forces, who is accused of killing people. They should not be in this uniform. They should not remain to be in this uniform. Because for me, anytime I put on this uniform, I felt that Gambian people are looking at me as someone who is also part of those people who were torturing people. Simply because, people who have been doing this thing are still serving in the Gambian Armed Forces. They have not been, they are still serving in Gambian uniform. And they are still being paid by the taxpayers. So if it had not been for the love of this country, I was not going to put on this uniform. Because putting on this uniform is making me feel that people are still, actually considering me also, because they couldn't differentiate. When they see me in uniform, they see another person in uniform who are, is the same. We are all putting the same uniform. There's no difference. So when people see me and they see others, they always have this belief that I'm also one of those who were killing people, who were torturing people. When, as a matter of fact, there are very good officers and soldiers of the Gambian forces who never hurt anybody. They only serve the Gambia, they only see the Gambia, and they only serve the people of the Gambia. But the perception now is that everybody who is putting on this uniform is bad because of the past actions of the members of the Gambian forces. And this has to be corrected. And it has to be corrected now because people have been accused of having lot of atrocities, committing a lot of atrocities, and they're still putting on this uniform. So what is the essence of being putting on this uniform and use the same uniform against the people? And you are paid by the taxpayers. What is the rationale behind that? What is the logical base on that? Why would people put on the same military uniform and go and do havoc, kill people, torture people, and they still put on this uniform, and nothing is being done about it? So we have to go away from that also. There is time to make reformations, to make it concrete. To make it concrete. Whether you are in the paramilitary or whether you are in the armed forces, in the Gambian armed forces, or whether you are in the prison services, any person who is accused of torture must be investigated. If it is proven that you have indeed committing torture or you have been killing people, you should be removed from this uniform. Because you need clean people to serve this country, not people who have a corrupt mind or who actually committed serious atrocities, and they still putting on this uniform.
Thank you very much, Imam, for those wise words. Imam C, you have the floor. Commissioner C.
BUNJA, thank you very much. First of all, what I want to tell you is that que jongolas dikkee nañ la boor bu ne waa yàlla musal la ci ñoom.
The Jongolas has that all meant to involve you, but they could not.
sa yéene bu rafet la nag moo tax yàlla musal la.
This is because of your good intentions. That's why.
yéene nga réew bi yéene bu rafet.
The intention you have for the country.
li ngeen jéemoon noonu même su duhul loi.
What you plan, if at all, it is not because of the law.
moo tax yéene bu rafet boobu yàlla moo tax musal la ci ñoom.
This is why to have good intention is good. This is why God has
te
said.
ñi nga bokkoon mbir mi ñu delluwaat jàmfaat la.
The people whom you intend to do they boycotted you.
ñaareel laajteel bi moom Ndour Cham keroog bi ngeen gis ak moom naka la mujjee.
The second question is that the said Ndour Cham, the last day you have seen with him, how did he last it? Well, Ndour Cham, the last time I saw Ndour Cham was when he left the office, and he went out of the office. That was the last time I saw him. I didn't see him again. We only spoke on the phone. When I called him to inform him that, what Farim Sanyan told me about the leaking of the coup. Actually, it was later that, after all these years, that, I came to realize that Ndour Cham was one time arrested and he was killed. And then, I want to mention here that, Ndour Cham, the reason why Ndour Cham, would not appear before any court of law, if Ndour Cham has come to appear before any court of law, so many heads would have rolled. That was why they would never allow him to appear before a court of law to give testimony. Because, so many people would have been named. Those, you never expect to be part of a coup would have been named by Ndour Cham. So the people who actually arrested Ndour Cham knew better why they had to kill him silently. Because if, they couldn't muster the courage to bring him forward for trial, because that would have been very catastrophic in this country. So many people would have been named. People nobody thought that they would be part of a coup would have been named. And these are high-profile people in the Gambia. They would have been named. So that was why I was telling you that people people have moral obligation. Many people, not only the army, civilians, they had moral obligation. Most of the people, that Ndour Cham, if he was brought to trial, was going to name were civilians, not even the members of the military. Of course, he was going to name some of the members of the military, but so he was going to name also civilians, who were also part of this particular coup. So that was why, they had to silently kill him, and then, just to close the chapter.
Thank you very much, and Mr. DARBOE, thanks again for a very detailed information that you have given to the Commission. Thanks for your testimony, and we'll see you 2 more times if we can indulge you. So we'll take your time for that. Thank you again so much. Tomorrow we would meet at 10 a.m. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.